we're going to start with general understanding of what is culture, self-awareness, learning about differences, and then we're going to drill down and trying to understand the main cultural characteristics in the business arena and how to bridge this cultural gap. And we will end, if we will have time, we're going to speak a little bit about cultural intelligence and hopefully a little bit also about psychological safety in remote place. And you can see at the bottom that it's written call for action. That's the reminder for me to end the story of the McDonald's. So before we're going to start with all that, let me say a few words about myself. So I have been working as an organizational consultant since 2007. And a few years ago, my husband got a job offer and we moved to live in Hoboken in New Jersey, United States. Anyone knows Hoboken? Yes, you do? Okay, few. So it is a beautiful place. It's 5 minutes from Manhattan with a beautiful view of the river, the Hudson River. And we used to live there for 4 years, my husband, myself, our children. I used to work for a global company, an American one, and I also studied at NYU. But with all that beauty of this beautiful city, it was kind of challenging for me to move outside of my comfort zone. Actually, my direct manager at the American company, she didn't really appreciate the way I work. She didn't like the way I multitask everything, or if I think that I have a very good idea and I approach a higher manager, she didn't like it as well. And it was kind of weird for me. How come back in Israel, I used to teach people how to give service, how to sell, how to stand in front of an audience. So how come in one culture I can teach other people, and when I'm in the United States, they don't really appreciate the way I work? So actually all that was more than a decade ago. And since then, I decided to explore more this topic of cross-cultural communication. And as Tanya said, I work with global companies all over the world, and I provide consultation services, workshops, lectures on how to bridge this cultural gap. And I'm going to share with you all my vast experience working with global companies today. So people from Canada can use the link for the Canadian culture, and the UK for the British, American culture, for the American, and I'm not sure if we have people from the Netherlands and how many, but if so, please use the Dutch culture. So the link for that, and just write, what is it for you to be from the culture you're coming from, or share in the chat if I don't have a specific link. It doesn't have to be value by definition, but what is it for you to be an American when you think about your own culture or any other? So take a few minutes to do that. Okay, wow. So we already have so many for the Canadian culture coming. And by the way, if you're not familiar with the application, with the Mentimeter, so there are no differences as for colors, but the bigger the fonts goes, this means that more people from Canada actually think that Canadian people are polite, kind, friendly, multicultural, but mainly nice people. Maple syrup, proud, free, blessed. It's amazing. Okay. British culture, they're also polite, banter, proud, humor. Okay. Baked beans. Sunday roast. It seems like I need some translations over here. Okay.
A lot of it's probably revolving around alcohol.
Okay. We see pub. Accepting, yeah, it's the time for the bar right now, right? What is it, 4 p.m.? What's the time for the bar, 5, 6 in the UK?
Probably 5:30.
Yeah, but here we have tea as well. It's time for tea.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes, Rana.
Thank you. Great minds, right?
Yes, great minds think alike.
American culture, wow, diverse, freedom, family, proud, independent. Wow, football, multicultural, inclusive. Wow. And few people from the Netherlands as well. Directness, distance, practical, direct, down to earth, international, realistic, honesty. How do we communicate with one another? And the spectrums rank from using a direct to an indirect style of speech. And then how much respect is expected? Okay, that you actually use more manners to people that higher than you in the organization, older than you. And the spectrums grows from egalitarian to hierarchy. And then how do you build trust? Do you build trust by being more of a relationship-based or more task-based? And the last question is, how do we make decisions? Do we improvise and change along the way? Or we use more of a process-oriented and then much more stability? We discussed about direct and indirect, and it's interesting to see some other flags of the Israelis on the corner, the Netherlands next to us, Ukraine, Portugal, but then all the way down until you get to Japan and China, while over there, if you disagree with your manager, so it's just silence. Have you watched, by the way, the movie American Factory on Netflix? It's I highly recommend you to watch if you have interest in cross-cultural communication. So the name of the movie, it's a documentary movie called American Factory. It's about a company in China that actually open a branch in the US. So the Chinese CEO arrives to the US and he gets to the general manager with the translator. And the first thing he tells him is that there is a need to move the door from one location to another. So the general manager, American one, tell him, well, it's going to cost us $25,000 to move the door. And he tell that to the translator, and she's in silence. And he tell her, can you translate that? And she said, I cannot. Okay, she cannot disagree with a higher manager, meaning that if the CEO is saying that we need to move the door, we're going to move the door. Okay, so watch the movie if you want to learn more about cross-cultural communication. So question, if someone from the UK is going to tell us that he's a bit disappointed, what does it mean, I'm a bit disappointed, if you're Brit?
He's absolutely furious.
Wow.
Absolutely furious.
Okay,
yeah.
Very upset. Okay, as for an Israeli translation, what do you think the Israeli will think if you're telling him that you're a bit disappointed?
I'll deal with it in a couple of weeks.
I think if an Israeli says I'm a bit disappointed, then he's really like a bit disappointed. That's just the end of the story. So
right,
it's clearly different.
So if someone from the UK is a bit disappointed, probably is not going to say anything. If he already decided to say something, it means that he's very upset. And unfortunately, the translation will be from the Israeli side. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, right? Because the majority of the British people, they will minimize, they will downgrade the situation, and also people from Canada and the US. While the Israelis, they will upgrade the situation. Meaning, if I'm disappointed, I'm going to say I'm very certainly, clearly, okay? So there is a need to translate not only the language, but actually translate the culture.